Hi guys, in the previous video we learned how to create this text view and this button. Basically create the front end. In this video we are going to learn what will happen when we press this go button and how to implement this that when we press this go button something happens. What we are going to learn is when we press this go button this text view is going to change into something else. For example, it's right now in your browser. We'll change this to something like URL reached or something like that. So when we press this go button we'll work on the back end. This front end will connect to the back end and we'll change this text view to something else. So let's go back to our backend file. Now if you are seeing this for the first time, you might be a little confused as to what all of this is. Now you need to understand that there is a lot to learn and we are only scratching the surface in this project. So try not to understand everything at the same time. I'm going to explain one by one what is the each part. Now the first line is package in.r3.avenge browser. This is the line that basically imports our package. This is the line that we gave at the very starting, if you remember. And always remember, if you have like some kind of error or if you press something on the browser and showing an error, you can always press Ctrl plus Z to undo what you had done. It will be fine. Like I did a little bit of mistake that I wrote something like garbage over here and so it was showing me an error and I pressed Ctrl Z and it was fine. Alright, so this is the package name and package is basically like a zip file. It contains a lot of compressed files and folders inside it and you don't have to worry about this. It's going to be automatically included in every file you create. And the second is import, and another import, this is used to like import functions like app compact activity is a function and OS bundle is also a function. You don't have to worry about these things are going to be automatically included in your folder in your project. So this is the class main activity. If you can see, this is the same name as that of the file name. File name is main activity and so is the class name. And it extends to app compact activity. Now what is app compact activity? App compact activity is a file, it's a very big file that is given to us basically by Android Studio and it contains a lot of function and functionalities inside us. What we are doing with extend it is basically we are saying that hey, whatever functions and applications and cool things that are inside app compact activity, we want it inside our main activity. So basically just extend whatever inside app compact or app compact activity, whatever the functions are inside app compact activity, extend them and give them to the main activity. That is the function of extends and that is what app compact activity actually is. Now don't worry about this override thing, it's just a thing that is used and this is known as onCreate. Basically whenever we create a new application or when we create a new backend file, this function is called onCreate automatically and it basically creates the view, basically creates this view. And then after the view is created, don't worry about the super line, don't worry about the save instant state. Basically these are the preferences. You don't need to actually worry about these things right now. So I'll tell it to you about all of these things later, but right now there's no need. Then there is this set content view r.layout activity underscore main. What this line is doing is it's saying that hey, go to this layout folder and there is this file called main activity underscore main.xml. Activity underscore main.xml is automatically hidden because it knows that if it's a layout it will automatically be XML file. So it's saying that set the content view. So it's saying onCreate basically creates the application and in the application set the content view as r.layout activity underscore main. So set the layout looks like this one. So this is the function of set content view, which is pretty self-explanatory by the name content view r.layout activity underscore main. So after this thing, what we actually want to do is in our text view, we have created a button. Now how do we identify this button? We identify every element over here by an ID, but right now we have not given any ID to button or the text view. So let's give them IDs. So let's say ID and click enter and click enter again so that at the rate plus ID thing is over here and let's call it underscore text. That's pretty much it. TV stands for text view in short form underscore text. That is how I usually name things. If it the capital letters, I make them small letters and underscore, and then I attach some kind of a meaning to the name. Then click again, and we'll also give the ID to a button. Let's click ID, press enter, and let's call it button underscore go. Now we have that. Now we have given IDs to both of them. Now just like this is basically a Java file, right? So just like you do in Java, like you declare variables. For example, if we want to declare an integer variable, we do something like int I equals to 0. So 0 can be any integer. In a similar manner, when we declare a button, so right now our button is only in this text file, only in this front end. It's not included in the back end. To include it in the back end, we'll have to declare like this int. We'll have to declare something like button, and let's call the button as btn button. Now as you can see, it's showing something as red. Just click on it, and then it's saying to press alt plus enter. So let's press alt plus enter, and it will be automatically imported, as you can see over here. Now we have a button imported. Now we'll have to include it into our onCreate set content view function. So to include it, we'll name it as button equals to, and we'll do button, then find view by ID r dot id dot button go, and then put a semicolon at the end. Now what this line is doing is basically initializing that button. We have declared the button over here, and then we need to initialize the button over here. So what happens in Android Studio and Android, how the button is initialized, basically we name it as button, and then we name the basically what kind of, like if it's an integer, we call it integer over here, but right now it's button, so we'll call it button. And then find view by ID, what it does is it goes to this activity underscore main basically in this file, and it searches for an ID of button go. So we have declared an ID of button go. So that's how we connect basically the backend with the front end. So now the backend has been connected with the front end. So it recognizes that what button are we talking about. For example, if we had another button over here, so let's include another button. What we can do to include another button is just copy this whole thing and paste it. Now we can name it as button second. Now if we had not given IDs, the backend would have not been able to identify which button are we talking about. But now as we have two buttons and we have given them both separate IDs, and we want to connect the second button with the backend, we can name it as button 2. We can call it as button 2. Then we can initialize it as button 2 button, find view by ID r.id dot button second. Now we know that this thing is talking about the first button, the go button, and this thing is talking about the second button. And the same way we are going to initialize the text view over here. So we'll just call it text view, and then we'll name it as text. You can name this as anything you like, and similarly the button 2, these are the things that came in my mind, that's why I named it like that. Let's call it text view, find view by ID r.id text view.text. Now this slide has been initialized, so it knows basically the backend knows that which text view are we talking about. It says find view by ID r.id.tv.text. So it goes to this file and says, okay, this is the ID, so this is the text view that we should be talking about. We must be talking about. Now what we are going to do is that when we press this button, this is basically the go button. If you remember, let's rename it as go button so that we remember it better. Let's call it go button. This is the go button. Now what we wanted to do is on pressing this go button, alright, there are two go buttons. So what we'll do is we'll just remove the second button just so that there is no confusion around. Remove this. We'll also remove this from over here. Alright. So now what we wanted to do is on pressing this go button, we wanted to change this text view to something else. Now we'll have to listen to this. Like when this thing is pressed. Now how will we initialize in the backend that when this thing is pressed? For that, we'll go over here and we'll write something known as go dot set on click listeners. For example, this is the first line that has come. We'll double click on it. So it says set on click listener. Then we'll write new on click listener. For example, this line has already been there for us. It already exists. So let's just press enter and a function has been created for us already. So what this does is it says when go button is clicked, do something that is over here. Now, what this set on click listener is, for example, let's say you're having a conversation and a spy is listening to this conversation all the time. So, this is what the set on click listener is doing. It is listening for any kind of click on this go button. And whenever this thing is clicked, it goes into this on click function and does whatever insight over on this on click function is. Now, what we want to do when this go button is clicked is change this thing, text view. So what we want is text dot set text something new. Now what with this set text function will do is it will take this text file, this text view, and how it identifies this text view, it goes over here and it goes to this ID. Okay, then it sees TV text and it goes back to the XML file, it goes to the text area, goes to the text view and says, okay, this is the ID. Initially it has a text of Avenger browser. We want it to change it to something new. And this is how we implement on click listeners. So that is pretty much it for this video. We are going to discuss and actually run the application on a virtual machine in the next video. And so pretty much it. I'll see you over there.